Hey everybody, my name is Mike Hillenmeyer, and one, how awesome was that, right? I mean, between the accent, the content, she prayed to everybody at the end. I just want to reset the bar real quick. She was here. I'm going to be here-ish. So I want to just reset the bar here. I'm also going to tell my story a little bit different than most of the other speakers this evening. So a lot of people talking about their business, where they've been in their business journey. For me, the theme tonight has been jumping, right? How we make this leap. The hardest part of this jump for me was how that impacts and factors in my family. My wife, my children, that was the tough part for me, is not how it affects me, but those around me. So this is how we're going to talk about friends and family with that jump. Is anybody else sitting here tonight and thinking, like, you just say jump, jump, and that's all we hear over and over again, right? Like, and anybody else hear this in their mind? No? If this doesn't pan out so well, I'm just gonna put the song back on and we'll listen to that because it's fantastic. So this is my family, and I wanted to point this out for a couple reasons. But first and primarily, when I sit in audiences and hear speeches like this, I always try to think, like, who is his family? Like, what do they look like? How old? I want to get that out of the way and give you a realistic picture of my family. So the first 6 iterations of this presentation, this was a photoshopped beach scene of us with our hair blowing in the wind. This is real us, right? So my daughter up top, who is this spunky little fireball, full of life and just enthusiasm, love. Her name is Maddie. She's 3.5. She's fantastic. My son Benjamin below, he's 14 months now. This picture's taken a little bit ago. He's probably staring at our dog because he really likes dogs. And then there on the left-hand side, my smoking hot wife Diana. Yeah, she said woo. So this is my family, and the speech tonight I want to tell through conversations that we had. And in my entrepreneurial life, I've known since I was a little kid that I wanted to start my own business. Like, that was always something I feel that I've been kind of pushed and prodded, and God has put in my heart to say, hey, you're out there to make something, go make something. So a lot of these are discussions, and there's 3 points. I read somewhere the 3 points were good in presentation. So 3 points we're going to go through tonight to talk about the discussions we've had. The first one is get to the real why. And this is something that's not just me, but a guy named Simon Sinek. If you guys are not familiar with that, look up Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. He does The Power of Why, or The Golden Circles. He talks a lot about how the best leaders in the world lead with this question of why, right? So why we're doing something motivates people way more than telling people what or how you're doing something. And I believe that is the case in business, as well as that is the case in your family life. So from early on, I told my wife, like, I feel like my why is to make this jump into entrepreneurship, to lead a business, lead a family. And that is what we wanted to do. So a couple of the questions here kind of prod a little bit further into that. So that's pretty nebulous, right? What is your why? The first one is the why of, like, how do you actually define success? And this is a big conversation that we used to have all the time in our family was, if we had a huge number in our bank account, which we don't, a huge number in our bank account, but I never saw the kids, I was never home, I wasn't happy, I was stressed all the time, is that successful? And my answer to that is no, right? I mean, we always think that, like, you get this big number in your bank account and the rest of that stuff just kind of comes. The dirty truth is in entrepreneurship that due to stress, due to cash issues, due to overworking, divorce rates are ridiculously high. Stress and all these other things that play into that are really, really high. So my first, I guess, prompting when my wife and I had these discussions was, how do we define success, right? So what is successful for us and our family? So I encourage that discussion with you guys to have with your significant others, friends, family, etc., and get to the point of what success is. I think that's important. The second one here is what are we actually scared of, right? And I think Jessie spoke to us a little bit earlier. She had her checklist of, like, worst case scenario. We did the same thing. So when I talked to my wife early on, I said, hey, I'm praying to God that he helps me make this jump, because I don't know if I can make this jump by myself. So I'm praying that he helps me make this jump. If this happens, what are we scared of? Like, what is that worst case scenario checklist? And we found out things like, hey, what if we can't give our kids education? What if we lose our house? What if our friends don't like us anymore because we're huge failures, right? All these things that as entrepreneurs and as we go through risk, you absolutely hit the checklist of like really, really bad things, right? And we talked about it. So the next one here, this leads into the next point, is over-communicating, which I am absolutely a big proponent of. My wife will tell you I probably talk too much. But over-communicate. So when you have something like that, like what is your biggest fear? Talk about it a lot. So we said, hey, losing our house, if that is legitimately a big fear for us, what happens? Like worst case scenario, and we would talk to our small groups, our friends, and say, we're worried that if we make this leap, this jump, we're going to lose our house, our security. What does that look like? And across the board, our friends are like, well, you would just move in with us, right? Which, yeah, I think we all think that like, hey, worst case scenario, we're losing our house and we're in a van down by the river. It doesn't typically happen that way. So just talk about it, talk through these ideas. There's other things. I have Game Change up there. For those of you in here who are Crossroadians, Game Change was a commitment where you had to give above and beyond. We did that as a family, and it really made us think about finances over and over again. So we had these big, deep, in-depth discussions that honestly you should have as a family anyways, and put us in a position where we're living on a small fraction of our joint salary. So when we did make that leap, that jump into entrepreneurship, it was way easier, right? It was the life we were living. We knew it was possible. It was absolutely a way to do that. So I think it's good to identify your issues and then figure out how you're going to address those issues and then make the jump, right? So the more things you can check off to say, hey, that's not really that bad, good stuff. My last one here is to be humble. And again, this is one of those good ones that is, I feel like I'm walking in the darkness and I'm saying be humble, right? This is a good one in life in general, in business, but in family specifically. And I think it's hard for us as entrepreneurs, right? That we have this challenge of we have to be confident. We have to be out there doing things that are beyond our stretch and still to be humble while doing that. In my business, I don't think I'd have any business if you asked me, hey, are you good at what you do? And I said, we're all right. Like that's not going to work, right? So I think it's really hard to balance out confidence without being arrogant. And this story, so for me being humble in front of everybody here, a story that not many people know as I progressed from, I worked in corporate America for about, 7 years or so, had a variety of positions, was pretty successful in what I did, was a product manager for a couple large technology companies locally, and then I've been praying, I think I mentioned earlier, I've been praying to God, like, help me make this jump, right? Help me make this jump. And I think Jesse had this image earlier of the flick off the cliff, right? I was literally flicked off this cliff of help me make this jump and fired. Which isn't cheating. I was praying that way, right? So here I am, mid-fall, stressing out. And I remember leaving, so fired from my job, got home at 9:30 that morning. My wife is there, she's a teacher, so she was home in the summer. And it was one of those moments where I just was totally humble and said, like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I don't know how we're going to handle this, how we're going to address this. I know I've been praying forever to be an entrepreneur, but now that I'm off the cliff and jumping, this sucks. Like, this isn't fun, right? And she, in her infinite wisdom, told me, if God takes care of the birds, he'll take care of us, or something, which, that's a Bible verse. That's the Hillenmeyer standard version of the Bible verse. If you're looking at the actual verse, this is the actual verse. So it says something along the lines of God will actually, if he takes care of the birds, he will take care of us, right? Which sounds simple, but like in the heat of the moment where I'm crying, it's a pivotal moment for our family as far as turning the corner to starting our own business, and she was totally a rock for me to get me over that edge. From that point, so that was 9:30 in the morning. By noon, I was in the office with my now business partner talking about how we're going to build a business, and by the end of the day, we had our first client meeting, which is pretty awesome, right? We didn't land the client, so not that awesome. So other things would be just to be humble. I feel like I had to make this slide look like the rest, so that's why those words are up there. the other story I'll tell about my wife, just about me being humble, is there was a point in time where so we've been doing Argo Venture Labs, is the name of my company, for about 2.5 years. And for the first year and a half, and I had a slide earlier, my other iterations of this, that showed all of my failures, and it was really depressing, so I took it off. But it was like 12 business ideas that we all tried that all failed, right? Like one after the other. Didn't get paid for the first 8 months, tried consulting, weren't very good at it. Did some things, and my wife, who's so patient and a saint, after all 12 of these things, I remember just coming home to her and being like, we've got it. Like, we finally have the idea, we're gonna nail this. And she said, well, what is it, right? Over-communicating like I do. She said, what is it? And I said, well, Brad, my business partner and I, we both love making people happy, so we're gonna be happiness consultants. You remember this? Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know what happiness consultant means. We're gonna go to business places and charge people to make their employees happy. And she looked at me and she said, why? Like that, if you're gonna do that, that's awesome. I don't know if you're qualified for that. Have you thought about payments, right? Like, you and your business partner have been in payments for 20 plus years combined. You've had an exit in 2009 in payments. I don't know why you don't go back to the well of what got you here, right? Pretty humbling that we tried for a year and a half and she nailed it in 30 seconds. So the next day, I kind of brushed it off and said, we don't want to be in that industry because it's not always the prettiest of industries of payments. And walked away, and the next day I went to my business partner and said, hey, I know we've talked about payments before. What if we did payments? And he said, we've talked about this. Like, the industry is a little shady. If you guys have ever been, as business owners here, I'm sure everybody in here has had a bad experience with the guy who comes in and says, I want to talk to you about merchant services. I'm going to sell you a terminal. I'm going to save you money. And then throws a lot of words at you that you don't want to hear, right? We've all been in those experiences. That is like the good side of payments. It's like this not good place to go, except for the people who are here tonight, like Damati. He's a good one. You can talk to him. So we want to stay out for all those reasons because we didn't like the industry, all these things. And then we had this idea of like, but what if it wasn't that way, right? Like, what if we could change that? What if we could make it where the experience was good? There was no high pressure sales. We weren't going to have any termination fees. If you told us to go away, we'd go away. We primarily base our business off of referrals, right? So rather than knocking on doors and making calls, hey, if you want to talk to us about merchant services, about technology that we have that we're building, we'd love to do so. And we've been, over the past year, been doing that. And actually been pretty successful. So I don't know if I've ever thanked my wife for her idea on that, but I guess in front of a few hundred people, it's probably the good place to do that. So thank you. So to wrap up, I'm talking the family jump here, just to reiterate my points. Get to the why, over-communicate, and be humble. So if you guys have any questions, would like to talk further about payments, about my story as a whole, about the 12 failing ideas that we had that you could potentially turn around, that's open game for everything, and would love to have that discussion. My information, emails on the screen. I love talking entrepreneurial, so thanks for having me.